Round 5 at the South African Off-Road Championship moved to the Eastern Cape. The Queen Motorspares Settler 400 getting underway with a time trial at the Aldo Scribante circuit in Port Elizabeth. For title contenders, the Settler 400 represented a critical stage in the championship, with some having to consolidate positions and others having to make up for lost ground. Special Vehicle Championship leader Marius Beaurain was competing for the first time on the Settler and went into the Eastern Cape event with a slender 8-point lead over the father and son team of Frans Czepek Senior and Junior. Richard Carolyn in third place was one of those who needed a good result.
Yeah, it's my first time running the Settlers. I don't know what the terrain looked like. We're going to give it a nice try and we're going to go because the guys are ready and they want to beat me. They want to prove something.
Circuit racers weren't going to lose any sleep over the lap times set by the off-roaders, but start positions were at stake for race section 1 of the following day, and a little personal pride was also on the line. Off-road motorcycles are hardly suited for the track, but the country's top riders were enjoying a rare outing away from the bush and making the most of the occasion. Leading the open class, and the outright favourite, was an Italian Alfie Cox, with the Settler an important outing for Kevin Fisher and Grant Bloomfield enjoying second in the championship. Wayne Farmer led the 200 class ahead of Clayton Enslin and Rian van Niekerk, with Alex Vowles holding a slender lead over Lance Chathiwi in the 250 category.
About 3 weeks ago, actually 4 weeks ago, we rode down here for a national enduro. So the terrain between the national enduro and the national off-road is about the same. But we're continuing the championship. All I've got to do is just maintain a nice steady ride, and I've got another 2 more races to do. I've got a bit of a lead, and just keep going towards the end, and I should have the championship, and that's the main thing I'm after. And if I can do well today and do well in the other two races that are coming up, it'll be a bonus to me. But the main thing to me is just to win the championship.
With the schedule running a little late, the time trial for special and production vehicles saw the 2 categories running together, with competitors split into speed groups. Once again, the circuit racing fraternity weren't going to worry too much about the sort of times set by the off-roaders. One advantage of piloting an off-road vehicle around a track like Aldo Scribante is that you don't always have to stick to the accepted racing line. Take a leaf out of R.P. Reineker's book in a super touring car, and your race will be over. With Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak leading the production vehicle championship by just 8 points, reigning champions Reineker and Robin Houghton badly needed a victory.
We had a great run at the desert race. We had a good plan, we stuck to it the whole way, and we ended up with a good win. It's been good for the team, it's been good for Nissan, it's been given us everyone's come off a high off the desert race. We're really looking forward to this race. It hasn't been our best in the past. We finished last year, I think we finished 3rd or 4th, but we had problems right through. It's quite a rough race, it's hard on the car, it's tight for the big cars like us, but we're looking forward to it. We're going to give it everything we've got. We're leading the championship. It's not a very big lead. I think it's about 10, 11 points. But nevertheless, we're leading it, which is better than coming second. But our strategy again is we've still got 3 events left for the year. We've got to finish. If we win, it's a bonus.
Manhandling the big Nissan Sani around Scribante was a handful, with Woolridge and Vermaak engaging in a good battle with the Epsom V Motors raceco driven by the Czepek father and son combination. Apart from the motorcycle and special and production vehicle categories, the Settler 400 also catered for a quad racer brigade. Here, Vickers van Deventer was the outright favourite, with Christo van der Merwe and Skalk Burger leading the 200 category.
Hier is 'n baie taai wedren. Dit is nie soos wat ons ken daar by ons nie. Die hele terrein is heeltemal anders, die lugdruk is anders. Dit is nie eers so Sugarveld nie. Dis 'n baie taai terrein hierdie. Hier moet jy oordeelkundig ry van die begin af. Ek gaan definitief nie kyk vir 'n wen nie, ek gaan kyk vir 'n plek. Ek het laas jaar baie goed gedoen, maar ek gaan kyk net vir jaar vir 'n plek. Ek meen ek moet net punte kry, dis vir my baie belangrik is.
The off-road racing fraternity just loved getting out of bed at the crack of dawn, and it was back to Aldo Scribante for the early morning start of racing section 1. Fastest time in the time trial of the previous day went to the special vehicle championship leader Marius Beaurain in the mighty Mag, with a driver from Three Rivers in Gauteng followed by local crew and reigning national champions Greg Harvey and Lionel Acton in the Queen Motorspares raceco. Special vehicles filled the first 4 places on the start line, with R.P. Reineker and Robin Houghton the first of the production vehicles in the Bankman Toyota Land Cruiser. The sun was just creeping over the horizon when the battle commenced, with Greg Harvey and Lionel Acton chasing after Marius Beaurain. The local crew lost a few seconds when they found a shortcut to a gate barred by a formidable-looking fence. Before they could resume chasing after Beaurain, the local pair had to backtrack and follow the conventional route. It cost them a little time, with the Solwald brothers closing the gap on the Port Elizabeth pair. The Solwalds won the Special Vehicle National Championships in 1994, with the results over the last season not a true reflection of their potential in the Buick V8-powered raceco. Natal crew Hilton Laurie and David Coombs had a good time trial in the HGM raceco and were quicker than a number of more fancied runners. This saw them running in a strong 4th place in the early stages. Behind the raceco, the RP Reinecker Robin Houghton Bankford Toyota Land Cruiser was the first of the production vehicle runners, with a great deal at stake in their private duel with the Nissan Sani of Neil Woolrich and Paul Vermaak. The ever-consistent Richard Carolyn in the lubrication equipment raceco dropped out of last year's Settler 400 and in a moment of inspiration whipped out a mobile phone and got the AA to tow him to the finish. This time he was determined to make it under his own steam, but was being chased by the Woolrich Vermaak Nissan Sani and the cadet raceco driven by local crew Owen Tutton and Mike Gilbert. They were ahead of Max Anjuan Moore in the VW Footloose in Class B in the special vehicle category. The father and son pairing of Franz Czepek Sr. and Jr. adopted a workmanlike approach to their off-road racing. There are no early race heroics from the pair, and they competed the top 10 as crews settled down for a long and tough Settler 400. There were no early surprises at the front of the quad racer category. Out in front, just where everyone expected him to be, was Vickers van Deventer on the Jojo Tanks Yamaha Banshee. The dominant force since the Quad Racer Brigade were granted national championship status, Van Deventer took an unbeaten record into the Settler 400. Chasing after the Lichtenberg dairy farmer was Mark Breckel on the Brasco Yamaha, with Yuri Duplessis on the Bankford Yamaha in 3rd spot. Also going well in the early stages was Johan Kruger on the Arena Auto Spares Yamaha Banshee. He was up into 4th place with Christo van der Merwe, the first of the 200 class machines on the Team Johannesburg Yamaha. Van der Merwe and Evan Hutchinson on the K57 machine, also in Team Johannesburg Yamaha colours, were the favourites in the 200 category, but no problems for either in the early part of the race. As was also to be expected, the early front-runner in the motorcycle category was Alfie Cox on the Castrol Panasonic Pro Action KTM, with teammate Darrell Curtis and Kevin Fisher on the Rock Oil KTM shadowing the diminutive Battalion. Alan Julian was holding down 4th place on the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda, with Errol Simons on a privately entered Yamaha right on his tail. Simons was also under pressure from 200 class leader Rian van Niekerk on the PD Motorcycles Honda. There was no shortage of support for the bikers from young locals who enthusiastically urged them on their way. Toyota Desert Race winner and 250 championship leader Alex Vowles was handily placed on the Antelex Dairy Castrol KTM. With the local youngsters still cheering on the bikers, the priority for Vowles was to finish ahead of nearest championship challenger Lance Tuthiwe. While the bikers went their merry way, local crew Greg Harvey and Lionel Acton had moved to the front of the car field in the Queen Motorspares Raceco. Behind them, RP Reinecker and Robin Houghton were still at the head of the production vehicle category in the Bankford Toyota Land Cruiser. Freiburg driver Arthur Tuppock was having a storming run in the VW-based single-seater, but there were problems for early race leader Marius Beaurain in the Mighty Mag. A fuel pump problem was hampering Beaurain's progress, with an irregular fuel flow to the engine, seeing the Mighty Mag lose ground. With the race settling down, Andrew and Chris Birkin were running at the head of Class E, the Team Off-Road Motor Club Toyota Hilux. Still going well and running second to Beaurain in Class B with the Algoa Motorsport Club pair of Owen Tutton and Mike Gilbert, who looked to be thoroughly enjoying themselves. Moving up through the field in the Forsdix Range Rover were Colin Frankenberg and Tony Yeo, who were third in Class D behind the Reinecker Houghton and Woolrich Vermaak combinations. Hot on their heels with the consistent Niels Lemmer and Karel Leroux in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. One or two good battles were starting to develop throughout the field, with Max and Joan Moore in the VW Footloose chasing after the Lemmer-Leroux Toyota and having to fend off the attentions of Johan Roberts and Jens Heiser in a Chenworth. Roberts and Heiser were in turn coming under pressure from DJ De Bruyn and George Finicak in a slightly modified Toyota Hilux, which is also among the Class E contenders. With Andre Finicak and Christy Fourie leading Class F in the VW Beetle, there was drama at the front of the field when the Sulwald brothers were the first to the refuel point in the Buick-powered Raceco. The Sulwalds had suffered from a spate of punctures but were quickly in and out of the refuel, where the big news was Vickers van Deventer giving a helping hand to other competitors while waiting for his service crew to arrive with spares for the Jojo Tanks Yamaha, which had run into a side shaft problem. The Sulwalds had got underway again when Marius Beaurain arrived at the refuel in the Mighty Mag. Cars and bikes were in and out of the pits at regular intervals, and when Franz Czepek Sr. and Jr. rejoined the race, they were up into second place in the Epsom V Motors Raceco. For some, there were quick running repairs needed, and the refuel stop took a little longer than anticipated. Marius Beaurain was still in the pits when Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak arrived in the Time Freight Nissan Sani. Beaurain left the pits in the Mighty Mag with Woolridge and Vermaak right on his tail. The Natal crew had moved ahead of R.P. Reinicke and Robin Harton in the Bankman Toyota Land Cruiser and were now leading the production vehicle category and were fourth on the road behind the ailing Mighty Mag. On the motorcycle front, Castrol Panasonic Pro Action KTM works rider Alfie Cox had managed to put a little distance between himself and Kevin Fisher. Fisher on the Rockwell KTM moved into second place when Darrell Curtis on the second Castrol Panasonic Pro Action KTM ran into mechanical problems. Alex Vowles on the Antilex Dairy Castrol KTM was up with Cox and Fisher, but was eventually to be classified 10th overall. A terrific ride had taken Rion Finicak into third place on the PD Motorcycles Honda, and he was in complete control of the 200 class and set to move up the championship ladder. Graham McLaughlin leading the 250 class on the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda, Walter Duplessis and Grant Bloomfield are all in the top 10 and going well. With 250 class championship leader Vowles not having a happy time of it, Lance Tuthiwi was third in the category on another of the Lesotho Office Equipment Hondas and was set to narrow the gap at the top of the points table. At the front of the car field, the die had been cast. Out in front, the Sulwald brothers were going like a train in the Buick Raceco and had opened up a comfortable gap. That, barring the unforeseen, was going to be enough to secure the win they had been looking for all season. Behind the Sulwalds, the Franz Czepek Sr. and Jr. combination were as rock solid as ever in the Epsom V Motors Raceco. The Czepeks had moved more than 5 minutes clear of Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak, who were third on the road and leading the production vehicle category in the Time Freight Nissan Sani. The Natal crew were well clear of reigning champions R.P. Reinicke and Robin Houghton in the Bankman Toyota Land Cruiser. Another steady drive with no need this time around of assistance from the AA had moved Richard Carolyn up to fifth on the road and third in the special vehicle category in the Lubrication Equipment Raceco. Going like the clappers to make up for lost time, early leader Marius Beaurain would eventually be classified 10th overall and 5th in the special vehicle class. Reigning special vehicle champions Greg Harvey and Lionel Acton ran into problems in the Queen Motorspares Raceco, but were a solid fourth in the special vehicle category. Behind them, a great drive took Colin Frankenberg and Tony Yeo through the field to finish third in the production vehicle category in the Forsdix Range Rover. A terrific battle was raging in Class E in the production vehicle class, with Niels Lemmer and Karel Leroux finally getting the better of Andrew and Chris Birkin in the battle of the Toyota Hiluxes. While there were no major surprises among the car and bike categories, the big story of the Settler 400 was the demise of Vickers van Deventer in the quad racer category. For the first time in 2 seasons, there was a new face at the front of the quad field, with Yuri Duplessis heading for a maiden win on the Bankman Yamaha. With Van Deventer fighting his way back through the field on the Jojo Tanks Yamaha, second on the road was Mark Breckel on the Team Brasco Yamaha. Breckel had slipped 8 minutes behind Duplessis, but had around 20 minutes to spare on third place Johan van Lille. A steady ride had taken Milton Thiessen into fifth place on another Yamaha, but he was nearly 50 minutes behind race leader Yuri Duplessis. Yamaha currently dominate the South African quad racer scene, with Paul Martin in sixth place, the first of the Honda-mounted riders. Behind Martin, there had been a change at the front of the 200 category, with early leaders Christo van der Merwe and Evan Hutchinson fading from the scene. This left Johan Steenkamp out in front of the class and 8th overall. Back at the finish, the Solward brothers were already celebrating their win in the special vehicle category, with the Chepek father and son team coming home second ahead of Richard Carolyn. Local crew Greg Harvey and Lionel Acton held on for fourth, with Marius Borain fighting back to take fifth spot.
Well, the car was going okay. We had 5 punches that took a lot of time. But otherwise it was fine, it was hard. I think the terrain was extremely hard on the cars. I can feel it though. I mean, it was not easy.
After winning the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, the Neil Woolridge-Paul Vermaak combination chalked up another emphatic win in the Time Freight Nissan Sani in the production vehicle category. The pair had nearly 10 minutes to spare on reigning champions Arpi Reinicke and Robin Houghton, with Colin Frankenberg and Tony Yeo delighted with third place in the Forsdix Range Rover.
We had an excellent run. We started, we pulled off in 7th position. We were second commercial away this morning. Toyota had 30 seconds on us, which is quite nice the way we planned it. We pulled a bit of time on him, and I think he had a bit of a problem early on this morning. I think he lost a bit of time. We got past him, and we pushed hard all day.
Another national win for Alfie Cox, with a good result for Kevin Fisher and a terrific finish for Rian van Niekerk, who was third overall.
It's one of the hardest physically rides, I think. Not the Roof of Africa, because the roof has got the big mountain passes, but just for normal riding on very, very hard terrain, Settlers is a hard one.
The big shock of the Queen Motorspare Settler 400, with Yuri Duplessis taking a maiden win in the quad racer category. Reigning champion Vickers van Deventer recovered well to finish 8th.
The route was rough as usual. It's one of the best off-road routes or races in South Africa, and I think it's one of the most enjoyable ones as well.